What does the obligation of a state of the union citizen have with the Selective Service Agency? How does that lawfully manage for a child that was issued a Social Security on birth and then turns 18 years of age? So, Matthew, everything is by registration. They can't force you to do anything. You get out of prison, you're a sex offender, to stay free, they force you to register on a sex offenders list. I don't speak about that from experience. It's just, think about it. They force you to register for armed services, selective services. They force you to drive with a license. They force you on all elements, but it's all choice. You don't have to do selective services. As to be specific for your child, simply do a new passport, state of the union citizen. Any of the statutes, codes, and ordinances of the United States don't apply to a state of the union citizen. I'm not saying, because there's two things. There's damage, there's harm, there's Title 18 actions that are specifically to somebody harming another individual, which is not only a biblical issue, but it falls under a different category of Title 18, versus statutes, codes, and ordinances that only apply to a state of the union citizens. Or excuse me, that only apply to U.S. citizens. So if it were me, I'm not going to register my child, and it's really up to the child. When they turn 18, they're of a legal age. They're no longer a minor. And so they can make that decision on their own. What I would do, if it were me, I would make them a state citizen with the passport process. I'd deal with the Social Security number. And that's done on the cheap. Matthew, there's maybe $1,000 you can get all those docs, and we would help you get the passport, the Social Security done, and all that. And then the selective services, you never say no, I'm not willing to do this. What you do is you write a letter, registered mail, and you do it from an accountability standpoint, where you do an affidavit first, and you bring in a series of questions second. And the affidavit is basically a declaration of status of state citizenship. You show proof of the passport application. You show proof of the removal of the SSA from the Social Security Administration. And you send that with a letter. You always want to rebut the presumption, agree and with a counterclaim. You're like, I would be more than happy to register upon proof of claim that this applies to a state of the union citizen. Meaning you're not saying no, you're not registering. You're actually saying, look, here's me. I'm here. I'm sending it registered mail, which is the most private and perfect way to prove you did send it. And you do it with a notary, and a notary presentment preferably, but this way the element of the person, your child, and here's a whole nother thing, Matthew, but the element of the child needing to register would be upon proof of claim, because you never said no. You're not operating in dishonor. And this is the biggest thing that people don't know in court. People don't know when they're operating with these agencies. You never operate in dishonor. You agree upon everything upon proof of claim. And so, yeah, I would love to apply for service with the greatest nation on earth. What is the definition of the United States? What is the jurisdiction of the United States? And, you just compile a FOIA with them, and upon proof of claim of this, and then you do a FOIA request, and boom, next thing you know, you're left alone. They may never give you a get out of jail free card. They may never give you any of that stuff, but you're left alone. And again, I wouldn't register with anything. And if I was going to register because of a fear, I'd use a signature non-assumption. I'd put the name in all caps. I'd put the word by in front of the signature, and then the actual signature would be the name non-assumption underneath. But understand, it could be drafted, and understand they have no rights. Once they do get drafted and they go into the military, they have little or no rights. They have all of their God-given unalienable rights, but once you get in the military, you start getting shots, you start getting examined, you start signing off your life. So I would never sign anything with the military non-assumption, no selective services. I just do it upon proof of claim. Make sure that you're protected, make sure you've documented everything. And then once I need to do a notice of fault with an opportunity to cure, then you do a certificate of default and you never heard back from selective services. That's your contract. You fulfilled it without ever agreeing and never saying no. That's operating in honor, and that's the best way to do it. And you've completed a new agreement by doing that. We don't have that question very often, if at all, but it is something that we should be considering to create for people for their kids. So I would agree that if you need some support or help and you're living in the private member, we'll work on helping you and getting something established to get you going. Nothing in respect has been created like that yet, but it's not that difficult.